Yeah. This is the Legacy League. Tell me what will your legacy be? Yeah.
The theme song is back. Massachusetts Legacy Leagues is back. We have 8 teams, 3 returning, and I like to say there's probably like another half or 2 halves of teams also coming back with FTG and A1. A lot of familiar faces, a lot of returning players, and a bunch of new faces. Well, there's one familiar face. Cade Ryan joins us, who you guys may recognize, but 3 other new analysts for our winter season. I'm Joey Zocco. Let's get to the games. We're going to break down all the week 1 action. We'll look ahead a little to week 2. I'm going to put the new interns on the spot, so get ready. That's one of my favorite things to do, as they're all nervous, shaking in their boots over there. But first, our sponsors. We have A1, so one of our teams. Check them out, a clothing brand. Lord's Army from Connecticut. But yeah, I can also check them out, a clothing brand, and Freedom Braids. So you can see them all on our social medias. If you want to be a sponsor, let me know. I like to shout them out at least at the beginning of the year, and then we'll have some other reads throughout the season. But let's get to the closest game, as I'm on the wrong screen, the closest game from week 1, and we'll start with some of the new interns. Run it up. So again, kind of one of those half returning teams that I didn't really talk about. Some familiar players, but a new team name. They win by 5 over B2A Records. All of the new analysts were watching those teams for the first time. So we'll go to Elliot first. We'll put him on the spot. He joined last, so he gets put on the spot first. Talk about Run It Up and kind of what impressed you from them in this one.
2 words, man. Sean Yard, 46 points, the leading scorer across the entire league in this first week. Very impressive. He shot well from 3. He was aggressive. He made the right decisions, and I was really, really impressed by 22. He is a baller, man.
Yeah, so his Legacy Leagues debut, a huge point total, as you talked about. We'll get to some of the other stats. Trent's next up on the spot. You can kind of talk about B2A and how they were able to keep it close. I know you can kind of see the stats on there, the quarter breakdown. It was a double-digit game, and they made this interesting at the end. They never really had a lead at the end of the game. I know they were following and trying to come back, but what did B2A do in the loss?
So it's funny. I played a lot of these guys already in basketball, so I already kind of knew their style of play. And a player that did stand out to me a lot was Anthony Cabero. Sorry if I say his last name wrong. He was the one that was, getting his team all rallied up, making a few buckets in that fourth quarter to get it closer. And those are the little things that matter a lot because, when your team's already down, you got a player like Sean Yard who already dropped close to 50 points. People get tired. People's like, man, I just want to go home. But he kept pushing his team. He kept telling them, like, let's go. And then they kept cracking the lead down. And there was a point where I'm like, there's a chance they can win. There's always blown leads all the time. I kind of want to talk about Golden State and Denver. Golden State yesterday was up and they blew it, and Denver came back and win. So these games always happen. Anthony Cabero definitely came out and played 7 for 11, which is really, really good from the field. But can I briefly talk about the other team real quick, if that's no problem, Joey?
Yeah, quickly.
For Sean Yard, he coached me too. So I already knew he had game. And but not only just Sean Yard, though, but they play as a team. You look at the stats, 46 points, that's good, but they play as a team, and that's why they ended up winning the game.
Perfect. Yeah. So see, it's like insider information. It's like cheating, right? He has the scouting report. He probably, if you were betting, he might have been a good person to know prior to this game. By the way, it sounds. Burke, let me give you some of the stats and we'll get Burke in here. But Ashley Maurice, 22 points, led B2A. You talked about Anthony Cabrera, Trent. So he also had 16 in for Run It Up. We talked about Sean Yard. We'll see if he can kind of keep this pace going. Casey Key with 14, one of those familiar faces coming back. And really, that was it for Run It Up. Those 2 led the way and a lot of scoring from Sean Yard. So, Burke, you saw both leagues actually this week. So did Trent. But you can kind of compare whatever you'd like. But Run It Up, one of the first games of the winter season, what'd you see in them quickly?
Yeah. So after the first quarter, it was a 1-point game. Opening the second quarter, Run It Up really, they just started to pour it on. They went on pretty big run, unanswered run, and they outscored B2A 38-24 in the second and third quarter, which really changed the landscape of the game because it built up too much of a lead for B2A to come back in the fourth quarter. So their work midway through the game really, set the pace for the rest of the game. So
Yeah, love it. And we're going to get to one of those returning teams once he mutes. I know he's finding it. Cool. We're going to get to one of those returning teams who's back, the Reapers. And so they didn't lose, guys, all last regular season. They lost a close one in the finals, and they actually fall again. So their first little losing streak here as they fall in week one. All right, A1 gets the win, 93-79. It was a little closer than that, especially in that fourth quarter, and I'll let Cade kind of, go off on this one a little bit. The other analysts here didn't get to see much of this one. They were busy watching Run It Up on the other court. But so, Cade, even in this one, you played against the Reapers last season. We know those guys. They have some new faces in A1. Dimitri Dionne's back. He kind of brought in some new guys. So a lot of new players contributing here. But the bottom line is A1 gets the win, and the Reapers, if we want to kind of date this back, are now losers of two straight, different seasons. They don't all count the same, especially when that one we're talking about was a loss in the finals. So that counts more than this one, and every team makes the playoffs. But Cade, A1 in this one, what'd you see?
Yeah. So that's kind of a mix of old returning players and some new players. But Dante Rivera was killing it out there. He was kind of doing a little bit of everything. Mainly scoring. He had 29, 11 for 23, almost shooting 50%, hitting 3 3-pointers. It just didn't look like anybody on the Reapers were able to defend him. He was kind of blown by everyone, getting every look he wanted. But yeah, A1 definitely pushed the pace. And the Reapers just kind of fell flat in their first game back. They lost some key pieces, but yeah, it was a tough game for them.
They did have the former regular season MVP, Kevin Views. He led the way with 27 and 4 made threes, so kind of a lot of the same things from him that we've seen before. Josh Bonnie Castro, another one of those returning players, 16. So again, those guys kind of picking it up and trying to get these new guys going. Let's not forget Carlos Bermudez Gleam with 18. So, your first game dropping 18. And again, it was more competitive than this final score shows. For A1, who does get the win, we talked about Dante Rivera, Manny Sanchez with 20, and Darwin Pereira. Might have butchered it. Again, I apologize, 19 and 7. If you keep scoring near the top of your team, we're going to get your name right because we're going to keep saying your name, and then we will figure out your name, I promise. But we like to kind of rattle off the top scorers there as A1 improves to 1-0, and the Reapers fall to 0-1, an unfamiliar spot to be in for them. Let's get back on the other court, FTG, a lot of returning players, so we'll get Burke in first and we'll work backwards, but they win by, math is hard, they win by double digits for sure. We'll get to FTG in a second. All right, FTG 78, BVO 44. It's for the gram and Boston's very own, but we're using the abbreviations for our own sanity, I guess you can say. So it is FTG. I'll kind of touch on the returning players. I'm going to go to these guys first because they don't know necessarily who the returning players are. So let's see how they do. Let's see if they pass the test here. So Burke, we'll kind of go backwards this time. FTG, your first time seeing them. We'll go to Ethan Austin. I know he's going to be one of the first people out of, that you talk about, as he was the offensive player of the year over the summer. So kind of continuing what he's done. But Burke, what'd you see from FTG and how were they able to get the win?
Yeah, I mean, first thing I noticed from FGG is they like to run. They're a well-oiled machine. They like to get off the break. They like to get the rebound, pass it up court immediately. Ethan Austin, he likes to stand at a 3-point line, get the ball, push the pace, get up as quickly as he can. So first quarter was close, but the second quarter they really just kept pushing the pace, and BVO just couldn't keep up with them.
Yeah, second quarter was the difference, 22-6 for FTG. That kind of let them build that lead and get this win. Trent, all right, we'll have you stick to FTG, and I'll put Elliot on the spot for BVO to kind of touch on them. Before I do the stats, Trent, you can go to FTG and kind of, what stood out, and maybe besides Ethan Austin, what'd you see in this one from them?
So one thing I do want to say about FTG is that they spread the wealth, right? When you look at a good team, it's not just one player. One player is not going to win you a championship at all, right? You need help. So Ethan Austin did his thing, but every other players, they had like 3 to 4 players that hit double digits. So that's always going to be key, especially when you're in a 6-man roster and stuff like that. You need other players to step up. Players get tired. And so they shot very efficient. This game, I will say I want to see them play against a competitive team. And that's no shot to BBO. But, when you're scoring 6 points in the second quarter, they definitely need to work on something over there and, go get some momentum for the next game. But like Burke said, that team was they were on pace. Every time somebody get a rebound, somebody's already out, easy dunk, easy layup every single time. And that's the reason why the final score was 78-44. So well-rounded team. And I thought they played pretty good, and I'm excited to see what they do for the rest of the season.
Let me say it now. It's a tradition. Once per show, we're going to talk about how the teams play so fast in the playoffs and in close games. You'll see it slow down. And so, sure, it's a huge, I say it all the time, wait for the playoffs. And it's so funny how in the entire second half of some playoff games, there's like no breakaways. And teams will get in transition like once in the entire second half of a close playoff game. So it's funny how teams like to, play fast. And obviously that's the goal when you get kind of a more even matchup. And again, no shot at BVO. They're one of the new teams trying to figure it out. You'll see the style kind of change. But we talked about Ethan Austin, Derek Stone, his first game, 19 points. Terrence Gallo and Sebastian DeLone, 2 players coming back, as well as Cole Sullivan. We'll kind of hear more about them, but they all were right around that 11, 10, 9 point total. Casey Kendall for BVO led the way with 9. That nobody could really get it going. Even look at the shooting for them, 32% as a team to just 22% from 3 for BVO. So Elliot, go wherever you'd like, but even just from these 2 games, quickly touch on this one and FTG getting the win.
Yeah, BVO, this is what I'll say. I talked to some of the guys at halftime. They're just out here to have fun. The chemistry will continue to grow. They know that they're not as competitive as they want to be at this very moment. But just talking to those guys, I love their energy. I believe it was either Romero Holiday or Marquel Wade. I forget who said it. We're getting cardio. We're getting back into shape. Like, I'm just out here, and not everyone can say that. They're running, they're playing, and I think their season's gonna get better as the year goes on.
For sure. Great. I love it. And so, hey, FTG is, back again and trying to put a team together, and we'll kind of talk more about the pieces on that team later. They're trying to win it. And they were in it last season as well when they were, what was their team name, Cade? They were a free agent team. Ethan's team.
Oh, it was another abbreviation.
They're
DTMB.
Yeah,
DTMB.
there you go. They were pink. I can see the jersey. There you go, DTMB. So when they were back. Let's get to the game everyone's waiting for, and then we're going to put the analysts on the spot before we get out of here. The RI Wave, and you can see the smile, versus the Party Crashers. Another wide margin. But we'll have Kate. We're going to analyze each other's teams. Hold on. All right. RI Wave 103. Party Crashers 61. So, Cade, you kick it off. I teased it. You have to do it. Go ahead. Talk about the RI Wave and what they were able to do in this one to get to 1-0 when they lost the first game of the season last season. And I think that was kind of a wake-up call to the league and how competitive it is, because a lot of the players on the RI Wave have played in this league multiple seasons. So it's definitely a little unfair. Week 1, the Party Crashers are coming back as well, so they're a returning team. Not to say that, but go ahead, talk about the RI Wave. I'll smile.
All right, so I already played against all these guys last year. They kicked my ass 3 times last year, I think, twice, 2 times or 3 times, twice. But yeah, their chemistry at the beginning of last season wasn't there. And that first game, I remember a lot of them were kind of just like Cody was yelling at I don't know. He was yelling at someone, I remember, in that first game. And I just remember seeing, like, I know these guys are so good because I was telling all my friends, like, this is the team to look out for. And then they lost the first game. So my friends were like, oh, really? And then later in the season, yeah, they were like, oh, yeah. And, yeah, I mean, when you got Cody putting up a triple-double, I mean, what can you do?
Yeah. Cody Crawford, an 8-time champion. He'll love us saying that in Rhode Island. So Cody Crawford there, but it was Shaq Ardrey leading the way with 29, Cody with 27, Anthony Lyons. We can rattle it off, but Dom Langston making his one now making some history. One of the few players to have played in all 3 legacy leagues by taking the court in Massachusetts. And so not a champion yet, but I know that's the goal for this team. And just to kind of flash back as we talk about some of these returning teams, the RI Wave last season, not that they took anything for granted, but just didn't take care of the ball in that fourth quarter. And it was actually the Reapers, a new team, who took advantage of that and won the game. And it was kind of like, oh boy, here come the Reapers. And they again ran the regular season perfect and were undefeated last year. For the Party Crashers, let's go over some stats. And again, some new faces. Aaron Mullo with 25, and so he kind of led the way. Nick Bolkelman's back with 20, 4 of 15 from three. Larry Bird, right? We call him Bird for a reason. So 4 of 15 is not going to cut it for Larry Bird over there. And Cade Ryan right there with 6. And Tim Kolb as well in his debut with 6. So, for the Party Crashers, trying to build that chemistry and kind of, they have some size. They got to hit some shots and to stay in some of these games. But let me get it out of the way before we do our one-word game here to end it. I like my team. Guys, you're going to hear it every week. I'm allowed to be biased in this one section. We put together a good team. So, again, we need people to show up and stay healthy because we're all old. But I'd hate to play the RI wave. It doesn't have the same rhyme. I always say I hate to play the halfway crooks, like in the play. I will say that, and I will save it. RI wave, baby. All right, and I said it last year, but we'll say it again. Here we go. The defending champion Mob are not back, so we'll have a new champion in Rhode Island. Let's end the show here with a little one-word game, and Cade can go as well. He has no. I don't know if he heard the one word. We'll put him on the spot. He's used to it, but hold on. All right, one-word game describing week 1. I'll give you 2 sentences after your word to explain it. Sometimes I just have you say one word and nothing else. And that's a lot of fun too, because then there's no explanation for your one word, but not today. So Cade's still thinking. Trent. All right. Here we go. So Trent, your one word to describe week 1 in Massachusetts. You can explain it quickly, okay, but your one word.
I would say dull, even if it's dull, because it's week 1. Everybody's new teams coming in. It's a slow start, but I definitely think it's going to start picking up for sure and get more excited.
All right, we're going to call him Debbie Downer from now on. He goes with dull. Okay, all right, fair. Burke, go ahead. You got one word for week 1?
Yeah, my one word is unleashed. Some of these guys, you could tell that they were ready to come back and they wanted to play. Like they were. It took a little bit for the first game to end, and the guys couldn't wait to get on the court. So unleashed is my word.
You could definitely hear that as well from the players kind of in the gym. Like they were excited to get back. FTG I know was itching, which is awesome. So, all right. So see, Trent, take some notes. Okay. Positivity. All right. See, unleashed is better. You're good. Elliot. All right. Are you, I hope, yeah, he's always smiling. He better go positive. Go ahead, Elliot.
I'm going to go with messy. And in a good and bad way. Bodies were flying on the floor. There were a lot of, gritty plays, a lot of turnovers as well. But we may have had a little technical difficulties. I won't speak on that too much. So I'll say messy for this first week.
While the word may be correct, Elliot lets me down. We'll see if he just continues this on every show. If he just, builds it up and I hype him up and he lets me down. Cade, listen. Cade's a professional. He won't let me down. I made him talk about my team, which is like a form of torture. I get it, right? We've talked enough about my team over the years, Cade. Your one word for week 1.
Tough. I wasn't going to go anything positive because, I was on a team that lost by 40. So I'm with all the guys that are watching this that also lost. And for us and the interns, I think it's always tough to start something new. But with toughness, you learn, and all these teams are going to grow, and it's going to be a fun season. So
he tried to spin it at the end and go a little positive. Listen, you guys are all rookies here. Cade's not. I can't believe he didn't take advantage of this. You can hyphenate words that are not normally hyphenated, and I will just make fun of you for it. So my word is big wave, hyphenated. And because, big wave, big win, big wave. And so I'm going to cheat and go with, big wave is my one word. You guys can figure out why. RI Wave go over the 100-point mark, and I believe they were the only team. Right, there you go. Not that matters. Winning is obviously more important, but it's nice to, get everybody scoring a little bit. Guys, very good job. We'll end it here. A little shorter show this week. We'll go a little more in depth. The way it fell, they all were on one court, so they have seen half of the league. So a little more difficult to kind of put them on the spot. But in the future, I'm sure you guys can talk about some of these teams, even not necessarily having seen them. But that's not nice in their post-game show debut. But Cade Ryan, Elliot, Burke, Trent, I do know your last names. We're not doing it. Everybody stay on after this as far as you guys, so you don't leave me. Just hang out. But thank you to everybody listening. We'll have our top plays. We'll have some social media posts, some really good clips this week, and we'll be back at it on Monday night at 4 Kicks in Norfolk for week 2 of the Massachusetts Legacy Leagues. Everybody, thanks for watching.